we just got through talking with Erin, and she is a,
A hypnotherapist and a hypnobirthing practitioner.
yes, thank you, because I did not want to butcher that. And she had a lot of amazing things to share. And what I found so awesome about it was all the techniques she shared were tools I used without knowing that they were even connected to hypnotherapy to help myself out of depression. I got rid of anxiety. And when I say my depression and anxiety were so bad, it was to the point where I was contemplating medication
Hmm.
and I had to take sleeping pills to sleep. Like I just couldn't sleep because my brain wouldn't stop going. And I had gained a lot of weight, partially from pregnancy, but I truly feel now looking back, the weight, I picked up even more weight from the negative self-talk and how hard I was being on myself and
Hmm.
the depression, all these negative patterns I had picked up. And one of the big things that helped me was how she said bringing awareness to the emotion. And I do like how she was hesitant to label it. You
Yeah,
know,
I like that too. Because sometimes you don't want to box certain things or label, because then you're just like stuck with this label that you just carry out throughout your life.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I had been doing. Like,
Mm.
we're taught as children as best as we could be taught how to be in tune with our emotions. I do think that's something like when I was in fifth grade, I was a conflict manager and we use the I sentences. So you're taught to I feel blank when you do this, but like she was saying, putting that label on it made it feel so final. And now I'm in a place where I've recognized, yeah, sometimes the core emotion could be fear or anger or hurt, but really there are other little things tied into that. So that's an example I can use. I'm trying not to get too personal, but I may have to.
So just to dig a little bit on that. So when you're saying that you felt like almost like a depression postpartum, right? That you mentioned, was it depression? What did you feel like? Was it more of sadness? Was it more of like like negative self talk to yourself? What exactly did it look like?
Okay.
Or
So
kind of look like?
I would say it was a little bit of all those things.
Okay.
And but I can clearly distinguish between them. So with the depression aspect of it, it was feeling like, and this is why I think it's such a big deal how she said we can't judge ourselves and the current circumstance, because my depression was triggered by feeling like I now have a baby. I'm still in this itty bitty apartment in the hood. Um, I don't have the job I thought I would have once I had a baby. I not living the life I thought I would have once I had a baby, and that weighed really heavily on me. And that was the depression aspect. Like I started to feel like my life only had meaning in terms of being a mom, and as much as I loved being a mom, I was not okay with that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to just be a mom, just be a wife. And the sadness was, even now kind of thinking about it, I feel like it was more of a mourning of losing myself. I didn't realize that then, but I was sad, even not thinking about the progress I wasn't making. I was just kind of sad to be me. And it's hard to describe because I know how in love I had felt before with being myself. I knew how much I loved being TeAirra's hobbies. I loved the things about me that even drove people crazy, I thought were cool about me. And I wasn't in that place at all. I did not like TeAirra. And like even saying that out loud makes me want to cry a little bit because it was such a hard place to be in. And then depression, sadness, and the postpartum. So the postpartum aspect of it, I can't say it was, I can't really say how much of it was postpartum because I had a lot of other things going on that had nothing to do with my pregnancy and birth.
Mm-hmm.
So it could definitely have been that those changes of becoming a mom and going through postpartum impacted my depression and sadness in a lot of ways, but I can't say that it was postpartum,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Was it after your first, or was it after your second, or both?
It started after my first.
Okay.
It did start after my first, a while after my first. And when I say a while, I say like she was 7 months old.
Okay. That's when
It
it
started
kind of.
kicking.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I felt fine. I was a little upset about how much weight I gained, but I mean, that's yeah. By my second baby, I think I had already been coping with my depression. I was working at a job where it was a nonprofit for mental health to remove stigmas around mental health and to give
Mm-hmm.
those with mental health experiences tools in life. And in working there, I was in communication. So I did social media, I did podcasts, I made videos. And I remember the not liking myself, the sadness part, starting to feel even heavier. And this was before I became pregnant with my second,
Mm-hmm.
right before, because like we do with our Holistic Hope podcast, I wanted to tell stories in a way that gave people back their power,
Mm-hmm.
helped people reclaim their power, because the more research and studies I did, I realized a lot of it is kind of a self-inflicted challenge. I don't want to say that we are responsible for our depression, like we bring it on ourselves type of thing, but the choice to either, how Erin was saying, we could box ourselves in to these emotions and label them as I'm depressed, therefore I can't get out of bed in the morning, therefore I have to be sad all the time, therefore nothing really makes me happy. Those were the ways this organization, we talked about depression. And when I would try to talk about it in a way of, yes, I feel sad, but today I want to choose joy, I was told not to publish things like that, because what if somebody got frustrated with the fact that they couldn't choose joy?
Interesting. So it's come
Right.
almost like as if you're being shut down, not to be happy, not to be.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because when we were talking about the progesterone, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's like a calming, hormone. And a lot of times when you're in the pregnancy moment or as the phases, that it's supposed to be high in progesterone to keep the baby, have the baby, all these different things, right? And so what happens is very interesting is right when you give birth, like right after you give birth, that progesterone calming hormone tends to drop.
Mm.
And that feeling, a lot of times when you mentioned, it doesn't feel like it's pregnancy related, but a lot of times we can't categorize our hormones saying only pregnancy, only this, it's like all together, no matter what we kind of push everything to a certain job only, whatever it is. And so do you
And
think?
I was going to say, it's interesting that you say it like that, because that would actually make sense to why I was even frustrated with the fact that my therapist told me I was depressed.
Hmm.
Because from a young age, I had decided I will not be depressed. I'm always going to be happy. And it was just, ignorant me kind of thing. But
You're like, it's not gonna happen.
that's what I want. Yeah, that's what I want to do. And I think I've always had that willpower of, I can get through any situation. Like, yes, this is tough, but I can get through this. I've always had that determination. And it was like when he told me I was depressed, and like I said, the baby was 7-8 months at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So when he said I was depressed, I do remember it hitting me like a brick. And it was kind of like all that willpower and determination I had before that was just like, well, then what's the point? Like, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
depressed, then I'm depressed. So I wonder if it had anything to do with the loss of that hormone.
Mm-hmm. And just made you even more stressed out, even
Mm-hmm.
more, because stress, it's either as they use the same, if I can think of it, almost the same bucket of where they're made. It's like stress, cortisol, progesterone, coming from the same like bucket of things. And so it's as if you prioritize certain things and it used certain things in this direction, so there was enough for the other side. So kind of like a balancing act. And so it's interesting. So what did you do? Like, what happened that helped you kind of get rid of this, all these labels, all these things that people kind of put you into this box of what you were?
Okay, what I'm gonna say, I don't recommend people do unless they talk to somebody about it
Okay,
before.
and I don't know what this is, so you haven't told me yet.
Right? Kate
So
does
let's.
not. Kate is not endorsing this. I stopped seeing my therapist, and I quit the job. Those are the first two major things I say I did. I thought very hard about not seeing my therapist anymore because I enjoyed going to my therapist. I enjoyed having someone to talk to. I did feel that he was helping me connect emotions and the way I responded to things. Why I stopped going to him was I had gotten to a point where I didn't want to focus on the external triggers. I wanted to focus on the internal triggers because
Mhm.
I was beginning to understand, okay, people and things are going to drive TeAirra crazy, but how can TeAirra not be driven crazy? Like, I can't keep allowing people to put me in these places. And no one yet had talked to me about being aware of triggers, even working at the mental health place. When we talked about triggers and things, it was like you get triggered and this is what's going to happen. You know, like you're going to have these side effects and you're going to have an episode and then you need to rest and recover. And I didn't agree with that, you know, which was the reason why I had to quit the job, because I was like, because I have shared with y'all that I am experiencing depression and anxiety, you have boxed me into I can only experience depression and anxiety, and I don't want that life for myself. I'm not comfortable telling other people that they need to stick to this life for themselves. I want everybody to understand they have the power to heal, whatever that may look like for them, you know? And so
And it didn't look like it for where you were working at. It just felt like this is one way, one treatment, one therapy. Is that what it looked like, or is it something different?
so they didn't give treatment. It was like a
Okay.
community type thing.
Okay.
um, which was, I thought that part was awesome. What
Hmm.
I didn't like was the language around it. So how Erin kept talking about self-talk, I feel like they coached people to have negative self-talk about their condition. It was like accepting that you are broken.
Hmm.
So the best way I know how to describe that epiphany was I was listening to someone else. Her name's Allison Bird, and she is a entrepreneur coach. She just talks a lot about money. And she was doing a talk one day about how nothing in you is broken. And when she said it, it was like I was told I was broken because I have depression and anxiety, you know, and it was like I was told I was broken. I never really believed I was broken, but because people kept telling me, well, when you're depressed, when you have anxiety, your life is over pretty much, you know, like you can't do things for yourself. You have to rely on external solutions to be able to have some type of happiness. And once I realized that I could really do the work internally, I did have control over how I felt about situations. That was when I think that was my big awakening moment. That was the big, then what happened? This is a really perfect lead in again to what Erin was saying about journaling. I went through and I read my journal from the last year because I would get angry or whatever. I would just journal. And I broke down crying because I was talking about myself so badly.
Mm.
Like saying the most I don't even want to repeat them. I was saying the most horrible things to myself.
Mm.
And I didn't realize that I'm thinking I'm venting, you know, I'm getting things off my chest or, you know,
Which is a good thing that you did that.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know. And so, and it is a good thing looking back because I probably wouldn't have never, if I hadn't have journaled, I wouldn't have been able to know just how badly I was talking about myself. To think, because I will never forget, like, I made a decision right then and there. I will never, ever again write this way about myself.
Hmm.
And that that is what I will say was the biggest change for me. And I love how, Erin today talked about, I I aligned it with manifestation and the law of attraction. And when she talked about seeing yourself in this, like going through how your day is going to go. And then when you can already pre-identify the triggers you're going to have, deciding then how you're going to respond to them in a way that is loving and helpful for you and not further bringing you down. I started doing that
Mm-hmm.
before I would get out of bed. And it was really hard for me to get out of the bed at this time. I would lay in bed and I like how she said, relax your jaw and stuff, because I was not relaxed. I was very tense because I was like on edge, feeling like every day had to be a fight. And I remember telling my grandma, I've been fighting my whole life. I don't want to fight anymore. What am I fighting? And so I would see myself going through the day and I would see the triggers coming up and I would decide how I'll respond to them. And very slowly it got to a place where I wasn't waking up feeling tense. I was able to go to sleep, not worried about what tomorrow was going to look like. And like I slowly start to see these improvements. And then one day I realized, oh shit, I'm not depressed anymore. Like it was like I remember looking at myself in the mirror and feeling like I saw TeAirra.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it was like I still wasn't back in love with her the way I wanted to be in her, but it was like hey, I see you and I see you seeing me. And it felt really good. And I just wanted to keep doing that. And so the same practices Erin talked about, and it's just blowing my mind how I didn't know it was self-hypnosis. I just intuitively knew I need to keep doing these things for myself. I would know I need to do it. I'd go on Google at night or I'd scroll through Facebook and I would see something that just kind of called to me. Click it. It turned out being a tool I could really use. It's been an ongoing thing. This was what my youngest baby's 3 years old now. This started when I was about 6 months pregnant with her. I quit my job.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a very long journey. And it keeps coming back to the fear and love can't exist in the same place. And I had a moment last week where I realized how afraid I was of being myself again. And how now I'm getting emotional, because I think now the fear is, if I go back to being this TeAirra, am I going to put myself back in that trap? But, that trap of depression and not feeling good enough because I'm so hard on myself and, all these negative things I was doing to myself. And now realizing like, yeah, that's a possibility. But TeAirra, you have to trust the growth you've done isn't going to allow you to go back to that place, live your life and be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. This is an intense conversation, folks. And it's all real. So never heard about this at all till right now. So I'm responding the same way everyone is responding. But yeah, so it's so interesting, like the aspect of, as we continue to do certain things that are scary, like launching this podcast, being more open. It's like now that our triggers kind of come up because I don't have kids yet right now. So when I hear it from you guys living through your eyes and your stories of, certain things trigger you when if your kids do certain things, it's a similar thing when you do certain things that are scary, certain things that make you think, is this right for me? Is this the next thing? Because I'll be more open. People will know more of me than now to be more vulnerable to do a lot of stuff that we're doing right now, talking about our personal issue or sharing a story to actually have people learn from them, to how they can navigate through similar issues as well. And so what it seems like, at least what you're telling me, TeAirra, is that now you were kind of thinking, what if, like all these fear kind of comes out. And then now, because I was seeing you did the glow up challenge? Is that what it was called? Yeah, recently. So you were literally kind of being out there, bringing the love literally to wherever you were talking to the group you're talking to the ladies that you're talking to. And that kind of had something in the back of your mind kind of saying, should you be doing this? It seems like kind of pulling you back, and then it made you think about that. It's not like it's a good or bad thing. It's not like it's a bad thing either, but you kind of noticed it now you're feeling that again, remembering how that feels from past. And that's all this is, right?
Like a recollection.
Yeah. It's not like, when I was sharing a little bit about my mom, biological mom in general, about that feeling of, abandonment, all these different things. When I remember how bad it made me feel, things and tears come up, means that I remember what it is, that but doesn't need to, come with me every single, the feelings don't need to come with me, but my memory of it and how I move from it does, in order for me to move forward, because it's still a part of me. It's not like bam, okay, vanished. My life didn't exist back then because I'm all grown. I'm not 5 no more.
And I like when we did the challenge, one of the things that were mentioned was honoring your past.
Mm-hmm.
And, you mentioned tears just now. And I found out that our tears have healing properties. There was a study done where they put tears under a microscope that were produced in different situations, and they have different chemical makeups.
Interesting. I didn't read about that one.
I'll see if I can find it. But they even looked like the molecules look differently, because our tears bring us the healing we need. And I think, was it our interview last week where it was mentioned that, we'll hold our emotions in and bottle them up, bottle them up, bottle them up.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for me, being vulnerable isn't the hard part. I think, being vulnerable and sharing my story, I truly believe that I like to say I'm an open book, because I feel we learn from each other. I think, I told the story in my group how when I was a little girl, my grandpa told me there are 3 people in the world: the kind of person who makes the same mistake over and over again, never learns from it; person who makes a mistake once or twice, and then they're like, I probably won't do that again; and then the person who can see someone else make a mistake and decide that's not something they want for their life.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always kind of lived under that view. And as I got older, it evolved to, well, it doesn't just have to be mistakes. I could see someone who has something in their life that I want, and I could learn how to achieve it by watching them, and then I can give back by when I go through something, i.e., being depressed for a few years. I gained like 100 pounds and lost it, and just my experience is that when I do open up and tell people, while they may not have gone through the exact same thing I go through, the sentiment has always been, I would have never known you went through all of that from the way you carry yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the part that makes me emotional, because I think of, when I talk to people on social media, when I myself on social media, I am truly being myself. I will tell you on social media if I'm having a bad day, and I don't see any shame in that. Like, I get a little irritated when people are like, oh, if you put your business out there, you're leaving room for people to comment. Like, I'm putting my business out there because I'm human and I'm feeling this, and I'm not ashamed by what I'm feeling. But what is hard for me is to think about, what if I hadn't? What if I hadn't shared my story with the girl who came into my DM? What if I had came on this podcast, broke down crying about how tough all of this was, and the little girl who needed to hear it never got what she needed? That is when I get really emotional, just thinking about, yes, I went through a lot and it sucked in the moment. I would go through it all over again, knowing that it's bringing the healing that other people need, knowing that now my little girls can have a conversation with me about something that's really hard to talk about, and not be afraid of mommy, not be afraid of how she's going to react in this situation. I like that. It's brought a lot of healing to my family even, because we weren't able to have, what's the word, like humane conversations when emotions were high. It's always a lot of fighting and throwing stuff. And that's just, don't want my family like that. I don't want my family tearing each other apart. And now it drives them crazy because I'll call them out on their crap, but I get to be the light who is saying, hey guys, this isn't how we treat each other. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's take a few minutes to calm down. Let's get some space. Let's figure out what's really going on. But we're family and we're not going to treat each other like this. And if you guys are going to continue to treat each other like this, I'm not going to be here. And I've learned the threat of my absence is what keeps them together. There's something about me, and that's also what makes me emotional, because I don't like that kind of responsibility. I don't like being the one who always has to have it together. That terrifies me because I know I don't always have it together. A lot of the times, I'm just going off of whatever comes to my head, and I'm hoping it's a good outcome, you know. But I've learned that when I say, I can't tolerate seeing us treat each other like this, I can't be a part of this, that's when everyone's like, hold on, let's approach this more calmly now. And it's like have the honor, truly the honor, of being in this position where I get to help rewrite my family's story so that we are closer and more connected. And we're getting rid of all these toxic habits that were taught to my ancestors and probably didn't know any better. They thought they were doing their best. I truly believe they were doing their best. Mm-hmm. And now I get to be the new age light, you know, of no, this isn't how we love each other. Because I get to say love and fear cannot exist at the same time. And I can't be afraid to talk to you and you say you love me.
Mm-hmm. So these are happy tears.
These are happy tears.
Happy tears.